crafty friends, it's Sharon Luska here. In today's video I thought we would go through some money saving tips, and one of the ones that I have is using some of your wrapping paper instead of some of those expensive designer paper sheets that we may like to all go out and buy. And all you need is a few decently smooth pieces of paper and some 8.5 by 11 label sheets. I like U-line, especially since they've got this strip at the side that is easy to rip off to line your paper up. And once you get that lined up, smooth it in pretty good and peel off the remaining of the liner. Don't throw this piece away because it's useful for so many things. You know, don't go hoarding them like I do where you got 50 of them, but one's good, or maybe 3. And smooth the rest of your piece in place. And you'll find that now you've got a piece of paper that's actually thick enough and strong enough to use in your crafting. So I also picked out some of this really funky paper here. This stuff's really thin, and I used it no problem to add it to a sheet of label sticker, and made a really cool piece of paper as well that I could use on my cards today. So you can use just about any wrapping paper that you want. You can use stuff like, my easiest stuff to pick out is gold and silver, things with designs, and I tend to pick my wrapping paper based on that. Now, if you notice too, the side that you've lined your papers up on will be a lot straighter, and I cut all my stuff down to 5 by 7, which is my preferred card making size, and then that way I know what's scrap and what I've got available. And here we are with card number 1. I'm going to be using some Distress Oxides and an embossed piece of Nina Classic Crust Solar White paper. And these aren't those special life-altering brushes or whatever you call them, but these ones are pretty good. I just got them at the dollar store. They're makeup brushes and they work pretty similar, as well as a smaller set of just kind of cheap bamboo makeup brushes too, and I thought, well, for the smaller areas they may work pretty good. I don't know, I think I'm going to try and invest in some brushes that do the job a little bit better than these, but at least they're filling in. And hey, you got to try what you got to try. You got to use what you're going to use, and you know, try not and blow all your money on every little tool and thing that's out there until you're certain that it's actually going to benefit your stash. So I'm just going over the raised portions here and highlighting the different components of the florals on this particular Anna Griffin embossing folder. And the nice thing is that these brushes are just catching the raised areas and highlighting them, and then allowing the depressed areas to only lightly be touched by the ink. And I think it makes a really cool effect. It's another way of using your embossing folders and getting something of benefit from them, more than just your regular old white embossing. And I've done a bunch of different styles here today to make sure that you see that you don't have to have the folders that I have. You can have any folder, anything that you have, you can pull out of your stash and take a look at it and see if it's something that you'd like to basically paint on with either a makeup brush or these life-altering brushes, or I don't know what they're called, toothbrush makeup brushes, something like that. You'd think a makeup artist would know this, and this is all new to me. But anyways, here I am now. I'm just kind of firming up some of the portions to make sure that they have kind of a strong impact with ink and that they're showing in the piece the way I want them to. And basically I'm just going over that, and this is my finest finished piece. And so then my other tip today is save that foam wrap that they send with everything. It makes an awesome substitution for foam sheets. Why we throw it out, I don't know. But you can use your ATG glue runner, stick it on, takes the place of foam sheets, no problem. And here I have just some paper raffia, I think it's called, and I'm just wrapping this around to put a little bit of an accent here. And I'm gonna cut my little piece off, and then you'll see, this is my other tip too, is I put things upside down to make sure how much of a border I need to put on so I can eyeball it and then get things in place. And once I've got it in place, you can see that's all held together pretty good with my ATG. I'm gonna add a little bit more ATG and get that stuck on my 5 by 7 white card base. And I have one of these EK Success punches here. And here's another little tip as well. And what I do is I tend to look at my punches and try and see how else they might be useful to me. So by cutting this piece off, it gives me a center portion. And then I can line that up on these other two pieces that were punched out of that silver piece that I showed you in the beginning of wrapping paper. And once I get the little extra tape pieces there and I line that up, that is completely different than what the punch started out looking like. So now I'm also going to take and just round the corners on a slightly smaller piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to use this Stampenda stamp set and this greeting, excuse my house coat, and I'm using Wilted Violet, stamped out happy birthday. Of course, who doesn't need birthday cards? Everybody keeps having birthdays every single year, in fact. Have you noticed? And everybody likes a card. If you don't have a gift, give a card. At least then people know you didn't forget. So I'm just pondering side to side, which place is it going to go? And I've cut myself another little piece of throwaway foam. Yes, we're saving the landfill, trying to reduce our garbage imprint here. I'm just going to cut the center portion out so that it has some room to allow my paper raffia to be. And I've already ATG'd this. I'm going to get my little strip of foam put in place. I think this is actually called polyurethane packing foam. If you go into Michael's has some, and I know like Home Goods or Home Sense, depending if you're Canadian or American, a lot of times they just throw it out. If you've got friends who are moving or get lots of stuff shipped, you know, grab it from them. It's free. So here I am. I'm putting a little bit of glossy accents as well on this foiled paper. And that will give a really nice effect. You'll see towards the end here when it's dry and you see it on the card, you'll see how cool it looks. But this is just a little view of my card with my stones in place. And we're on to card number 2. So here I am with my mini ink pads, because of course they travel so much better than the regular ones do. I don't have room to take all those colors with me. I wish I did. If I had like some sort of personal concierge who took everything and toted it around for me, that would be great. But my husband refuses to do that job for me. Who knows why? I think he'll tote around my clothes and my shoes, but not my craftiness. My craftiness he draws the line at. So I try and keep it as portable and small as possible. But I'm essentially doing the same thing here, so I'm going to leave you with a little bit of music, and you can watch the process all over again. This is also an Anna Griffin folder. I've used this a few times before in other cards. Of course, I like to try and use as much of my stash as frequently as I possibly can. Getting some miles out of those crafting dollars is important to me, and I think it is to all of you too. It's nice to have lots of things, but it's also nice to use the lots of things that you have. Oh, and I also made sure those are just from the dollar store. Those are those bamboo brushes. I wanted to make sure that I got a chance to show them to everybody. So here I am just highlighting similar flowers. What a surprise that Anna Griffin would reuse a similar flower in 2 different embossing folders. See, she even reuses stuff too. Good girl, good on her. So I'm just highlighting that with these brushes, and I hate to say it, I'm going to guess that almost any makeup brush, give it a try, see what it does with your inks, especially Distress Oxides. They're so creamy. Why not? If you're not using them on your face, or, you know, well, try not to use them on your face if you've used them crafting. If you got picket fence stuck on you, that might be an awful surprise. But, you know, if you've got brushes that you're not using or you were disappointed with to use for doing your makeup, or maybe you just don't do makeup anymore, you know, pop them in your craft room, see what kind of things they can do for you, and don't be afraid. Sometimes the cheap stuff's just as good as the expensive stuff. Anyways, I'll leave you here, and you can listen to some music while I finish up with this card, and I'll be back when I've got some new tricks to show you. go. I'm finished my second panel here. And this is some of that foam sheeting as well in a thinner quality as well. The thicker quality is more commonly wrapped around things. Even the small pieces, like if it was wrapped around a makeup brush, save it. So I also snuck with this EK Success Punch a couple pieces out of my background panel there. And I'm going to add some ATG and get this all glued together. I'll line it up to eyeball it, see how big my margins are, and pop that baby into place. I did cut this down as well. You know, as Jennifer McGuire says, if you cut down your background pieces, it will give you a much better quality looking piece. And I also snuck out a little piece from this green layer here so that I could use that for my sentiment portion. I'm just going to cut this foam packing sheeting, I don't know, we need a word for this, into the appropriate size. I'm going to add my ATG, a good amount, and stick that down. Don't worry about the tape on it, nobody's going to see it. As a matter of fact, you can barely see this stuff from the side either. And it compresses really well through the nail, as well as I think it takes up less space than the foam does. But regardless, I'm going to stick on some reclaimed ribbon from something else from the trash. Okay, so I reclaimed this from an invitation we were sent, and I'm going to add a little bit of extra tape on the sides just to make sure that it doesn't slide out of place. And I'm going to get that on my background piece. You can see that it has a texture on one side. I'm going to use the untextured side and you know, get that into place. As well as I've used that stamp set again. I've got Have a Happy Day. That's from Stampendous. And I'm going to glue that onto a little bit bigger size circle of my green background. ATG that again to the back of my EK Success Punch Out here. And I'm going to add some more foam to this little piece. And the nice thing too is I think if I was using foam tape, this card might be getting too thick to go through the mail, but I'm going to take it to the post office and check and see whether a double layer of this actually makes a difference or whether it can pass through with regular postage. I think it's going to compress and be fine. Although I did add some gems to this, so I'll get back to you in my next video and let you guys know. So here's my other little trick. Instead of using a glue dot, I just use little pieces from my ATG. It is literally the same product. So if you want to use a gob of ATG instead of a glue dot, maybe you don't have glue dots or you've run out, just tuck that back in, and that's what I like to use to keep my ribbons from flying around when I'm trying to attach sentiments. Sorry about the glare there. I'm just going to take my last little piece of ribbon here and slide that through and make a little tie here, which thank God it wasn't a bow because I'm terrible at those on camera. I think that's the YouTubers kind of, I don't know, nemesis, where you can't tie bows on video. Any of you girls out there that can tie bows on video, God bless you. Anyway, so I'm just going to cut the ends off here, make them nice and straight. And I am grabbing another little tiny piece of my ATG, and I'm going to roll it up and I'm going to just slip it on the very edge here of this ribbon. Because I don't know why it is when you tie something, one side lays down and the other side likes to flop around. So that just keeps that in place and makes it look a lot more tidy. And now I'm going to put a little more ATG on the back of all my layers and get that on my 5x7 heavy duty white cardstock base. And I'm going to be adding a few gems here just to dress this up. I think that also makes a big difference when you're using your punches to cut things out, is what else can you do to dress them up? And then here's another little thing that I like to do, it's the second time I've done it today, is using my glossy accents on any type of metallic paper, whether it is wrapping paper or whether it's, you know, expensive paper that you've bought. But if you use your glossy accents, you can see that it adds almost a gem-like look to the finished product. And this isn't dry yet, but when you see the final photos, you can see there on the side though that you can barely see my foam. It makes it quite nice. So I've actually decided to do some of these ahead, and I found a punch that had a bunch of circles, and then I punched out a bunch of hearts. And I've got this Aleene's Fun Craft foam glue, Any glue that dries and remains tacky will work well for doing something like this. This is where I was saying don't throw out your backer sheets from your labels. Go ahead and throw a few dots down. Put some on, that's actually a Q-tip piece or a makeup piece there that I put some on, and I use that to pick up my little paper circles here, and I'm sticking them on top of all those glue dots and putting them into place. And these are going to be pre-stuck kind of embellishments. I'm also going to try them with some of these cupped sequins that came from Stampin' Up, and then I'm going to go over all of them with my glossy accents. Now, I also wondered maybe I could color some of the silver ones with Copic, see what happens. And the Copic did stick no problem to the metallic wrapping paper, and I'm putting the glossy accents over the top of that. And here you can see, voila, everything's dry. And I'm just gonna put them on here so you can see what they would look like if you did them independently. There's one of those hearts. That's literally wrapping paper punched out with a little bit of sticky glue and glossy accents, and there you go. So that's what they look like dry on my final piece. And you can see that my ribbon did stay stuck down, and you can't tell. And this is my friend Kathy's birthday card. Happy birthday, Kathy! I know you were probably looking at it going, that's my card. And that was the first piece of the second piece of wrapping paper that I used. And here's a few more ideas. The black on this is again wrapping paper. This is also an embossing folder from Anna Griffin. And this is just a Derice embossing folder. Done the same way. Again, another piece of, actually these are two pieces of wrapping paper. One piece of the gold and another piece that was a denim print wrapping paper. And I've done these all similarly styled, but you can see I think they've turned out quite well. But anyways, hopefully if I've inspired you and given you some things to think about, hopefully you'll subscribe, comment, and thanks for joining me.